Hello, Courtland Warren with more personal development and self-understanding during this time of shelter in place, along with a closer connection with friends and virtual concerts and DJs, food and libations. Let's make sure to get some personal development in so that when we're back to normal, you're not the same. Right. So what I want you to do today, just really briefly, is I want you to recall a challenge or adversity that you've had that today you are thankful for. A particular obstacle that you had to move through, and when you look back on it today, you have an attitude of, man, that was the best thing that ever happened. In the moment, perhaps you wouldn't have picked it for yourself. Maybe heartbreak or divorce, a bankruptcy, a firing or termination, a diagnosis regarding your health. And in the moment, there may have been questions. In the moment, perhaps some doubt, but you look back on it now and who you became in that process, you would not have had it any other way. It's very likely that you've had moments like that. Right? And if you're in that place today where you made it through it and you can look back on it and say it was the best thing that ever happened, then you were experiencing or you experienced post-traumatic growth. See, trauma and devastation, adversity and challenge isn't just reserved for only a few. To be a human being, to have the human experience is to deal with adversity and challenge. And what we know to be true is that there are those who, upon experiencing adversity and challenge, they sometimes never bounce back. They never return to what they were. They are a shell of their former selves. And that is oftentimes referred to as post-traumatic stress disorder. It's not only reserved for men and women who've served in the military. Any traumatic event, a traumatic experience, the loss of a job, being terminated from your employment when you have the responsibility of caring for and providing for your family can absolutely be a traumatic experience. The loss of a loved one can be a traumatic experience. And so any level of adversity or devastation, because it is relative, can be traumatic. And there are those who, when they experience the trauma, they never bounce back. For the most part, or on the main, most individuals do at least return to their former selves. They find a way to dust themselves off, to get going again. Sometimes it's literally one foot in front of the other, left, right, repeat, and they find a way to get back. And they can look back on the experience and they recall going through it. Then there are those who they don't just bounce back to where they were. There are those who, rather than just bouncing back to where they were, they are better as a result. They don't just bounce back to where they were. They found a way to actually be better, to grow stronger than they'd ever been. And those are the people that we really want to be studying in this moment. What was brought to my attention by a friend of mine recently, Ted. He said, the thing about Corona is that it's bringing everybody together. And I replied, yeah, it really has no respect of person. Rich, poor, gay, straight, Christian, non-Christian. It really doesn't matter. And what it is doing is actually bringing the world closer together, even though social distancing is part of the remedy. And more on that at a later point. What we know is that there will be those who, through this process, some businesses will never return. And what we also know is that through this process, there will be businesses and organizations that are better than they've ever been. And what we know is that there are individuals. There are individuals who, through loss or through illness, not only literally but figuratively, the devastation of this experience will be one where they never return to the former selves, and there will be those who use this time to equip themselves to be better than they ever were. Oftentimes we hear about post-traumatic stress disorder, but not as often, or it's not as popular, is post-traumatic growth, where you can take the adversity or challenge and become better than you ever were. And so the question to you during this time that you have to think and to contemplate, you don't put a pause on your dreams right now. You don't press the pause button on your goals and aspirations. This is a time for clarity. This is a time for clarification, for you to look at what have you been doing, and is what you've been doing truly what you desire to do. That's where we find ourselves currently. And so in this moment, will you allow this moment to define you or to refine you? To define is essentially to categorize, to limit by way of a definition. When something is defined, then the boundaries are marked when it's defined. You as a human being are without limit. You as a human being, because of the use of your extraordinary imagination, there's not a whole lot that you cannot do. Of course, we have different physical traits and qualities and attributes and different resources at our disposal. But as it relates to your ability to generate what's necessary from within in order to create a life of meaning and fulfillment, you absolutely have that. And so during this time, don't allow yourself to be defined, but rather to be refined. And when something is refined, then it is to essentially remove all impurities. When something is being refined, it is being made better or improved by making small changes. And so this is a perfect time for you to be doing exactly that. And so it is for you to, my encouragement for you is that you recognize that here's an opportunity for you to be refined, for you to make some small changes, for you to make some small improvements that can make an incredible difference. And make sure that you put yourself in position to not just bounce back to where you were, but to be better than you've ever been before. Of course, stay safe. Of course, listen to what is being encouraged by officials and authorities around social distancing and shelter in place and all of that. Yes, but even as we go through all of that, you have the power of your attitude, you have the power of your mind, and this is a creative time. I was reading recently, Inc. magazine had posted an article related to Warren Buffett, and his advice was of self-investment. And I totally agree with that. But he also went on the principle of, the key is to, when everybody is running from the market, run to the market. And when everybody is running to the market, then that's the time to, play it a little more safe. Well, if that is a key for investing when it comes, and I'm not an investing a money advisor, but I can apply principles and transfer principles. And if it's the case for investing in finances, then it has to be the case when it comes to investing for oneself. And so during this time when everybody's frantic and everybody's scared and everybody's, man, I don't have time for that, and I don't have time to read that, and I don't have time to listen to that, right? They're running away from self-investment. This is the time for you to be running towards self-investment, so that when we get back, because I know we will, that is the power of the human spirit, when we return, don't be the same. And what I encourage you to do is not just return to where you were, but do what's necessary now so that you're better than you ever were. Thanks for listening. If there is value here, or if you believe that someone else will be helped, my encouragement is that you don't keep it to yourself. Share it. And we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.